Good afternoon, everybody. If you can just let me know if you're hearing us okay. There is a chat function on the right-hand side where you can send us a message just to make sure everybody's hearing us loud and clear. Cool. Thanks, everybody. We'll just wait like 1 or 2 minutes just to let everybody log in and get access, and then we'll get started. Okay. I guess we might just get started. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. So this is the first one for the Master Plumbers Australia and New Zealand. So all of the Master Plumber associations, which is exciting. I just wanted to say welcome and thank you for tuning in. My name is Summer Adams and I'm representing MPANZ today. And I'll just be moderating the session today. So any questions that you have, you can use the chat function and I'll be helping out with answering those throughout the session. But our two presenters today are David and Lars from Peregrine Creative. We're going to be talking with these guys about embracing digital technology in your plumbing business, specifically things like websites, apps, and how you can make the most of technology to better your business, basically. So I've already talked a little bit about the chat function on the right-hand side. So as I just said, if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in there. You can send me a direct message as well if you want to, if you don't want everybody to see the question. As questions come in, I'll just jump in and we'll ask David and Lars the question, or we'll just go through them all at the end of the presentation. So I just want to say a big thank you to our presenters. So David from Peregrine Creative. So he's got over 20 years internet experience and he was previously actually a member of Master Plumbers in Queensland. He's got nearly 30 years small business experience, so he has a lot of valuable insight into the plumbing industry specifically. And then we've got Lars. So we were first introduced to Lars when he was the Strategic Partnerships Manager for Crazy Domains over 2 years ago now. And Lars has, I'll let him tell you a bit more about himself, but he's got a lot of experience with digital and software companies in the last however long. So I'm going to hand everything over to David and Lars, so you guys can take it away.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone. So yes, my name is Lars and I did launch my first website design company back in 1999. That was the same year as the USB flash drives, the camera phone and Wi-Fi. So we did also create our first app for mobile phones in 2014. I recall we did a prototype back in 2005, but we found that the 2G and 3G network was way too slow, so we just kept that on the shelf. In 2015, we reached a milestone of 500 websites created, And by 2017, I had entered the corporate sector, and I was the Australian Strategic Partnerships Manager for the ASX-listed Dreamscape Networks Limited. And you may have heard of one of their brands being Crazy Domains, which is currently Australia's largest supplier of domains and hosting. So in 2019, I relaunched back into self-employment, and that was after the company Crazy Domains moved all their operations to Singapore. So that's a bit about me. Now, David, a little bit about you.
Well, as someone mentioned earlier on, I was a member of the Master Plumbers Association of Queensland way back last century in 1996-97. So I get plumbing. I was doing roof plumbing way back then. I launched my first website in 1997. In those days, websites were hideously expensive. I paid $2,500.
Lisa's one of them, and Daniel's one of them.
By the way, Summer, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Technology is wonderful when it works and can be such a hassle when it doesn't. So anyway, I built my first e-commerce site back in 2004, and it's actually still running. And I've been doing Google AdWords since 2005. I've had over 22 years in the internet. And one interesting thing is way back in 1997 when I built the website, there was no competition way back then, but there was also no traffic. I think in the first year I had 2 visitors to my website. So winner for those two. The $2,500 for 2 people was not necessarily a good investment. Things have changed substantially. And in 2019, our website is now a much more powerful tool than it was way back then. So with those 22 years of experience, I've learned a heck of a lot. And now we build websites for other small business people and plumbers and tradies specifically. And in 2018, we rebranded to Peregrine Creative. So, Lars, tell us why should people why should plumbers be on?
Well, look, I recall when I first launched my first website, well, actually my first business even back in the 80s, 1987. It was a mobile car detailing company, and we had a landline and we had an answering machine. So a friend of mine suggested I get a car phone so that potential clients could call me when I was out and about doing my jobs. And I pretty much said to him, look, only wannabes have a car phone. So I got a beeper instead, like a pager. And of course, that was a pain in the backside because I couldn't immediately return the phone calls unless I had a car phone. So you probably see the irony here. Also, the cost of a car phone back in 1987 was around $2,000 to $3,000 plus 75 cents per minute to make a phone call. And if I'm correct, then I think we also had to pay for incoming calls back then. So, but fast forward to 2019, and we can now buy a mobile phone with an internet connection for around about, well, as little as $19 as a prepaid phone, and we can connect it online for another $10 a month. So being online is no longer a luxury, but in some cases, it can be life-saving to have access to the internet. And what comes to mind are topics such as bushfires, medical first aid, and so on. And of course, from a business point of view, it's crucial to have access to the internet. Just imagine if you couldn't access your emails for a month or so. So, but David, a few people have a lot of times when I conduct a workshop or seminar, I get a question like, "Oh, but I'm already flat out." So, what do you say to that?
Yep. Oops, one too far. Again, modern technology is wonderful. Okay, there we go. So it seems to be, because of my experience in the building industry, tradies have this idea that just because I'm busy now, and for that matter, a lot of other people have the same philosophy, because I'm busy now, why do I need to advertise or promote myself? Well, there's a thing called promotional lag. We all know that we need work next month, next year, and just because we're advertising today doesn't mean that it's going to provide us with the work that we need in the future. And in fact, they did a case study a few years ago, and they discovered this thing called a promotional lag. Now, if you look at the green line and the red line represents promotional activities. And the numbers are not important, but what it does mean is that they've been they start doing the promotional activity, and it takes a little bit of time before it actually starts to generate results. And you can see there the green line starts to go up, but there's a time lag between those two lines. And then when they stop doing promotional activity because they're too busy and suddenly they don't need any more work, guess what? The work starts to drop off. And then in order for it to pick up again, they start the promotional activity, but then there's a lag. So the worst time to start promoting yourself, marketing, advertising, is when you're quiet. The best time to do it is when you're busy, and just you need to keep the line going. You need to keep the momentum going so that you have work next week, next month, next year. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is promoting with regards to websites. So let's start with a domain name. Most people understand what a domain name is, but just for keep things nice and simple, your business name might be Joe's Plumbing, so your domain name goes inside what's called the URL. So Joe's Plumbing becomes joesplumbing.com.au. Interesting thing is that sometimes there's more than one Joe's Plumbing in Australia because different states have different rules. So if someone else takes Joe's Plumbing, then you're out of luck. The good news is that there is an alternative. There's a top level domain which is called .plumbing. So you can have joes.plumbing, and it has the same strength, the same credibility, the same recognition as joesplumbing.com.au. So anyone who's interested in something a little bit cutting edge can consider going to a .plumbing type address. The other thing as well is that your domain name is part of your intellectual property, and you should consider it as your real estate. So even if you are not going to get a website tomorrow, buy your domain name now and stop someone else from getting it, so that even if you do it in 6 months or 12 months time, you've got it there locked away and no one else can touch it. So domain email. Domain email simply is an extension of your domain name. So back to the example we had earlier on, where the website address is joesplumbing.com.au. Domain email is simply just adding something like Joe onto the front of it, or for that matter, info or sales or admin. And that looks far more professional than, say, this. All right, be honest. Who's got a gmail.com email address or a Gmail Hotmail address? So Lars, quick question for you. What would you do if you received a quote from a plumber or electrician or a painter and it was a Gmail address? What would you think?
Yeah, good question. I would immediately think that that person is still using old tools to communicate. Would be my first thought, such as just writing things down on a piece of paper and then giving it to me in the letterbox type thing. That would be my first impression.
So you would put a doubt in your mind?
Yeah, look, I guess subconsciously it probably would. Yeah.
And most people would feel the same way. The reality is that if you send out 20 quotes on a Gmail address, you'll probably still pick some of them up. But the more important question is, how many people get that doubt and how many jobs do you miss out on? Fair question?
Just on that note, David, there was a study, admittedly it was done in the UK, and it dates back to 2016, I believe.
Oh, that's
and it showed in pounds, when we were converting it to Australian dollars, it said that the loss to a tradesperson that weren't online, and I know this is talking about emails, but just in general, that weren't online, was $27,000 per year that they missed out on jobs.
wow.
So again, that's a couple of years old, that study, and it is in the UK, but there might be some relevance there.
Oh, that's serious money anyway. $27,000. Who wouldn't want an extra $27,000 in the account each year? So I think everyone can agree that domain email looks far more professional, and there's evidence to show that it actually does when you work. So we've spoken about domains and domain emails. What about website, Lars?
Yeah, so the question is, and I assume a lot of, and this is just an assumption, but based on some other stats that came out last year, it showed that 50%, around 50% of businesses did not have a website. So we are obviously talking now to the people that either don't have a website, or if they have a website, they haven't, their website is not up to date. So look, we all know the expression window shopping, and we just, people would browse shops looking for an item to buy now or later. And well, what happens if a customer needs to browse around in your shop late evening or on a Sunday, for instance, or if you don't have a bricks and mortar shop? Then, well, businesses, they do solve this obviously by having a website, and here you can display everything like opening hours, your services, and testimonials from happy customers. So what if you already have a website but it's a little bit dated? Well, try this. If you open your website on a mobile device like a iPad or a tablet, iPhone or an Android phone or any smartphone, and just see how your website displays. What you've got to look for is it straightforward to navigate? Can people access the information easily? And basically, how does it look? Does it reflect your brand the way you would like it to? Just to keep in mind that more than 80% of people in Australia use their mobile device to access the internet. And also, there was a recent survey that showed that more than 70% now validate a business online before making a buying decision. So, I mean, these are sort of huge numbers. But what if you don't have the time to keep a website updated? So my answer to that is, well, there are people out there that can do that for you. And websites that are built in today's technology will allow you to drag and drop text and images into a website template literally in minutes. And of course, this is not what web design companies want to hear. But if you want to be online and you need to have access because you make changes and you want to upload photos on a regular basis, then that could be an excellent option for you. So, but if you don't have the time, then allocate this task and just spend a few dollars to keep your website up to date and informative. It really does reflect positively on your business and your business image to have a current, relevant website. I'm sure, David, you would agree with that.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt if you don't have a website, people that try to find out more information about the business and the business owner, if they can't find out the information easily, they'll just go and deal with a competitor. It's as simple as that. I know that's what I do.
So now, okay, yep, you have a website, and now the next topic then is, what is online business verification? So just to expand on that, let's just say as an example, we receive a notification online and there's $30 or $40 million sitting in an overseas bank, and we just need to send $1,500 to gain access to this fortune. Of course, most of us, we think that's rubbish. What a load of BS. But there are many times that this sort of scamming is far less obvious. So how do we know for sure that a business online is legitimate? And of course, it's a complex issue. It's a big problem, especially for Google. If there are illegitimate sites in Google search, then it impacts their credibility, of course. So Google is keen to verify each business. When you search for a business in Google and you see their name, website, and a map, then this means the business was verified by Google. And this verification process is simple. If you go to Google's search page and type in Google My Business, you'll be guided through the steps on how to verify your business. And you're just seeing up there now that they will send you a postcard as such to the address that you've listed. And once you receive that postcard, there will be a combination of numbers and letters. You'll have to go back online and put those details in, and by that, Google will know that you have a physical address, and they will then make sure that you get a ranking on a better search ranking in Google itself. Now, that can all be done through Google My Business. And what is Google My Business? Well, your Google listing is not a website. it is a listing on Google that appears when potential customers are searching for your business. So it's sort of like a hub that allows customers to quickly find all of your contact info in one place. So now, having talked about Google and Google search, David, what about plumbers specifically and some search results?
Well, interestingly enough, people absolutely search for plumbers on the internet. So I went onto Google, into the Google Analytics, and I did some research. And these are statistics for Australia-wide. So it's not Queensland-centric or New South Wales-centric, etc. So in July, last month, there was 1,000 people search for a master plumber. Over the 12 months, there was about 10,500 people search for a master plumber in Australia. People who search for local plumbers, and this is the search term Google uses, 1,600 in July, over 19,000 in 12 months. Emergency plumber, obviously, when people have got the toilet overflowing, that's a problem. So they want a plumber now. That's 2,900 in July, 28 over nearly 29,000 in 12 months, and then the last one, plumbers near me, 18,000 in July, and then 145,000 over 12 months. So people are searching for plumbers. If you're not there for them to find you when they need you, someone else will get the work. That's pretty much as simple as that. And at the end of the day, people, especially when they're looking for an emergency plumber, you can put your sharp pencil away and you can use your blunt pencil when you're working out the pricing. So that's something to consider. And they'll only find you if you've got a website and a listing and something that tells them about you. Sometimes I get asked by people, is a website important if I'm selling my business? Well, again, it's absolutely. The website is part of the marketing strategy, and any prospective purchaser of a business will want to see what is the marketing strategy, what is the marketing funnel, how do you generate your business, where does your clients come from? And it's not good enough to say, oh, well, I have regulars, because someone buying a business, if they're going to pay top dollar for the business, they want to know how they arrive, what strategy is in place. And if you don't have a website now, you need to get one, because I've spoken to business brokers and they tell me that you should be strategizing at least 6 to 12 months in advance if you're going to sell your business and retire. So it's not a case of bringing up a broker on Friday and then putting the business on the market on the Monday. It just doesn't happen that way. They tell me that 9 times out of 10 business owners are not sale ready. And they're not sale ready because they've got so many things to have to do to get the business in line to be sold. So we've spoken about websites, Lars. What about Facebook?
Hey, what about Facebook? That's something that people constantly say to me, well, I have Facebook. Why do I need a website? Or what is the importance of Facebook, for instance? And isn't Facebook and Instagram, isn't it enough? So there is anecdotal evidence suggesting that Facebook has now peaked, and it seems that Instagram is the go-to place, if you like. But despite this, a Facebook business page does provide some exposure, and it should be and could be a part of your entire online presence. A business on a social media platform is not a replacement for a dedicated business website. However, if your social media pages are integrated into your business website, it can be an easy way for you to post and publish content. And it may also assist to increase your website's Google ranking. And on that note, it is fairly simple to have it integrated so that anything you publish in Facebook will automatically be also seen on your website. David, some of the must-haves on a website?
Well, bottom line is that you need to have, too far again. The homepage, that's the landing page. That's where 80% of people will drop in and visit. So that landing page makes or breaks the website, because people have got seconds to be impressed. And if they're not impressed with what they see on the first page, they'll click, and they're only one click away from one of your competitors. So that if the rest of it doesn't matter if the homepage isn't up to scratch. The second most popular page on the website is not the Contact Us page, like a lot of people think. The second most popular page is the About Us page. And the interesting thing about that is that people like to deal with people. People don't necessarily like to deal with businesses. They want to know who the Joe is behind the Joe's Plumbing. How many years has he been in business? How old is he? What's he look like? What qualifications does he have? That's what people want to know, and that's what's on the About Us page. Then after that's a Contact Us page, so they can find out if you've got email set up properly, if you've got your phone number there, if you've got your Facebook, etc. All your contact details on there. And then just as importantly is the services page, because we all know plumbing is not plumbing. There's drainage, there's leak detection, there's roof plumbing, there's domestic plumbing, there's commercial. So what do you do? What don't you do? That's what the services page is so important. And then the gallery page, you can have either images of before and after shots, or you can put content up there about things like, you know, what do you do if you have a leaky tap, or for example, if you think you've got a leak or you've got mold, what can you do about it? So there's some good information that you can put out there, and it's not giving people something that they're going to use themselves. What it does do is it presents you as an expert in the field, because if they see that the content that you put up there is of value, then they're more likely to want to give you a call and deal with you because you're a person that knows what they're talking about. So it's very important to have things up there that can be of interest to people on the blog page, or images that they can see before and afters, so they can actually get an idea of you, of what you actually do. So that's the important pages on the website, Lars. But what about a logo?
Yeah, what about a logo? I think when you look at a website, one of the first things you do see is a logo. And just on this page alone, you'll see I've put a few logos up there just to illustrate that point. But many experts do say that a logo is probably the most important part of your brand. It grabs people's attention, and it does make a very first and impression that should be a strong first impression. So often a business identity is built around the logo and slogan. So you may recall seeing some of these ones here. For instance, immediately when you look at some of these sort of logos. Now, Telstra doesn't even say that it's in telecom. We just know that that's what it is. We know now KFC is, we know that's to do with chicken and so forth. If you think of Bunnings or Optus, and you just came from another planet, you wouldn't necessarily know what they do, because it doesn't say Bunnings Hardware or Optus Communications, but we all know now when we see the logo, we know what comes to mind immediately. So it is important. Have a look at creating a strong logo, make it unique. Don't just grab something from a
clip art.
Yeah, clip art. That's the word I was looking for. Which I see a lot of, and sometimes we just see the name itself without actually any sort of logo behind that. So I do feel that this is one area that often is neglected, but. That also, and just going back on the logo, it's not something that is necessarily going to cost a world of money. So just consider getting a few different prices for it, but you can get logos done for as little as $20 or $30. So getting to the next topic, which is SSL and whether you need one. And what is SSL? Well, it stands for Secure Socket Layer, and it helps to protect the website from being hacked. So when you have an SSL certificate applied to the website, you'll see in the address bar, in the URL address bar, that there's a little padlock. And I've tried to illustrate that by in that screen. You'll see at the top of that screen, there's a blue square, which in that square is a little padlock. You may not be able to see that, but typically, that's what will appear when a website has an SSL certificate. Also, the website will display HTTPS, and the S.
Uh-oh. Lars, you just dropped out. Again, modern technology. So there's a connection issue. Summer, can you hear us?
Yeah, I still got you here. I think it's just Lars, maybe.
Okay, well, in the absence of Lars, I'll take over because we just want to keep things moving in the right direction. One of the other things that SSL does is it gives the consumer, the visitor to the website, some confidence that the website's legitimate. It also gives Google confidence that the website's legitimate, because if it shows that there's no SSL on there, Google takes a dim view of it and it won't rank the site. Especially now, it's got to the stage where it's going to be completely like that. So if you don't have an SSL, you're going to get a message like that on your website, and anyone getting to this page is just going to click and go somewhere else. So SSL is not expensive. You can get them for, well, if you do it yourself, $20, $30 a year. If you get someone else to do it, $50 to $100 a year. I don't recommend you doing it yourself unless you really know what you're doing. So SSLs are really, really important. So clicked it. So is Google really that important? So there's a good reason why Google is worth more than $100 billion, and that's because it's got the credibility. How many search engines do most people use when they go there browsing? I'm sure some people use Yahoo, some people use Bing, but the giant is Google. Simple as that. So Google needs to be considered whenever you're doing your marketing strategy, whenever you're doing your website strategy, because if you can be found on Google, that's going to be a significantly important aspect of your business and in your lead generation and your marketing and getting clients. Because people search for you online and Google shows you and being in their search returns, that's a good indication that you're verified and trusted. And then that automatically puts a positive thought in the mind of the prospect, rather than if they can't find you, when they're trying to do the research, they're more than likely to just move on and find someone else. Let's see, what else? SEO. So these are all Lars's slides, so I'm just making this up as I go along. So SEO is short name for short search engine optimization. It's the process of getting organic, or what they call unpaid traffic. So when people search for plumber in Brisbane or plumber in Melbourne, what happens is that Google goes through and it analyzes all the websites and brings up search results which show what Google thinks is the most accurate description or the most accurate results for that particular search term. So you're creating a website that gives Google the right impression is all of the things we've gone through, plus also putting in the right keywords, and that's about the content, because the Google doesn't read the content. What it does is it matches the content to what people are looking for. So if a particular page has got the words plumber and the word Brisbane in it, that's more likely to be in the research for plumber Brisbane. Most important that the content matches the intent of the site, so that when people are looking for specific, whether it be plumbing or gas fitting or hot water service or whatever, plus Brisbane, that your website has all that information on there so that Google recognizes it. So Lars, you're back.
I am back. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened.
Oh, that's okay. I just took over. I nearly finished. No, not a problem. I've got you back. So I'll let you can talk about this page. How about that?
Okay, so on this page we are talking about. Let me just get my. Let me just go back. We're talking about SEO.
I finished SEO, and I was just about to talk about AdWords pay-per-click.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with AdWords, it's a way that you can feature prominently on page 1, even in the Google search. You'll see that there is and I think it's in the next screen. In here, you'll see that there is a little word next to the www. And it lets you know that it's an ad. For that, you pay per click, and you can then set the keywords such as plumber Brisbane, whatever the keyword is that is relevant to your business.
So, Lars, when you say pay per click, what do you mean?
So that when someone clicks on what we've highlighted here, is somebody clicks on it and it takes them through to that particular website, then there is a cost to that business. And that business typically will pay somewhere between 5 cents and $1 perhaps for each one of those clicks that comes through.
So do they have to pay if nobody clicks on the ad?
So they don't pay, they will only pay if somebody clicks on. And there is reporting that goes with it to show from where people have clicked, how many times they've clicked, where they've gone to on the website. So it's very detailed. There's a little bit of setting up and there's a bit of managing the AdWords, typically called an AdWords campaign, but it can be done you don't need experts to do it, but it is a little bit, you might need to be guided through just to show you once or twice how to do it. And it can be a little bit time consuming in finding what are the keywords that you need to have in your AdWords campaign, if you like. But that in itself as a whole, there are people that spend days and weeks just on this topic. So it can be a little bit complex. It doesn't have to be to get into AdWords, and we can certainly help and guide you and just have a discussion on this to simplify it. But it can be worthwhile. I myself has built a business built purely on AdWords and nothing else. So it is a very useful tool. David, if you can just tell us a little bit about digital technology.
Absolutely. And just on that last point, I started doing Google AdWords in 2005, and my business at that stage, again, like yours, was built 100% on AdWords because I didn't understand as much about SEO as I do now, and it was such a difficult task to get listed in the organic search results that if it wasn't for AdWords, I wouldn't have had a business. Simple as that. Simple as that. So let's talk about digital technology. What is digital technology? This whole webinar is supposed to be about digital engagement, and digital technology is very much a part of that. So it's, in simple terms, it's the electronic tools and the systems and the devices and the resources that you use to generate, store your data and information. And what I mean by that is Facebook is social media. It's part of digital technology. Online games that people use, like Scrubby Dubby or Candy Crush. Mobile phones are also examples of digital technology. So it's in front of you and maybe you don't even realize it. Computers, tablets, hard drives, all examples. The stuff that you may not be aware of is programs like Office 365. So what's Office 365? It gives you the latest versions of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access if you use it. And it's got a whole bunch of business tools that help you to run your business smoother, more efficiently, and more profitable. And some examples is Microsoft Bookings, which is a scheduling tool. It allows customers of small businesses and companies to book appointments with a company. For example, you may have heard of HotDocs, where you can actually book a doctor's appointment online, so you don't even have to phone the office of the doctor to speak to the receptionist and be put on hold for 10 minutes while you're in pain. You can just book the doctor's appointment online and then you just turn up. Simple as that. Much better system, and it's much better for the business as well as for the consumer, because then the business doesn't have to waste time with the receptionist. Flow is another program, another tool that's in Office, and it helps you to automate your business processes. So for example, you can put into Flow that you set an appointment, you go out there to do the appointment, you create the quote, you email the quote, and then you can schedule follow-up phone calls to see if you've won the job. So it's very, very good for systematizing and reminding you to do things. Another example of a program is called OneNote. And OneNote is a tool where you can share, especially when you're dealing with builders, for example, you can share drawings, screen clippings, or in other words, screenshots, and you can even put an audio commentary on a particular thing, so you can ask questions about things and then share it through OneNote so that you can get a response back, and it's more efficient than just typing an email, and faster, and you can put a lot more detail rather than trying to explain it all in an email itself. Another one is OneDrive, which is like Dropbox, so you can do file sharing. So all these tools are there to help you run your business more efficiently, more profitably, smoother, and basically to make your life a lot easier. So data security. What does securing my data mean? It's so important to secure your data because what most people don't realize is your data is your business. Customers are your business for sure, but if you don't have records, then your customers are not going to be happy, because if you lose their files, if you lose what you've done, if you lose your contracts, if you lose your quotes, then they'll think you're inefficient, unprofessional, and they'll deal with someone else. So data security is not just protecting that from loss, but it's also protecting from disgruntled staff. And I have a story where some years ago I was working with a hotel down the Gold Coast, and they fired one of the admin staff because she was doing something wrong. I can't remember exactly what it was. And there was half an hour between when they fired her and then they walked her out the door and took away her security. They gave her half an hour to clean out her desk. And in that 30 minutes, what she did is she booked up the whole hotel during Indy for 4 days. She just reserved all these rooms. So they were looking at their reservations going, oh, this is fantastic. They didn't need to market because the whole hotel was booked during Indy. And then what happened is nobody turned up. It cost them tens of thousands of dollars in lost revenue because they thought that the hotel was completely booked out. She booked it and no one was turning up. So they had to scramble the last few days to try to get in a few customers to fill in all their rooms. And they managed to get some in, but they lost tens of thousands of dollars in lost revenue because they had a disgruntled staff member. So we're not just talking about hackers. Sometimes the hackers can be right in front of you inside your office. So you need to take steps to secure your data from all threats and protect your business, because if you don't protect your business, then you're not going to have one. So here's a common thing. What happens if my computer crashes or fails? And how many people have felt like that guy? We've had some challenges today on this webinar. So modern technology is wonderful when it works, and it is such a pain in the you-know-what when it doesn't. So I can't stress this enough. This is so important. You must have things like a backup, because if your computer crashed tomorrow, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to experience an oh shit moment, because you'll think to yourself, oh, I'm in trouble now. All my quotes, all my contracts, all my contacts are on that computer and I've got no backup. Or you'll think, thank goodness I have backed up, and thank goodness I've got a copy stored somewhere else so I can easily go and get access to it. So if your computer crashed tomorrow, would your business cope? If you had no backup, perhaps it wouldn't. If you had a backup, a proper backup, more than likely it would just go normal, proceed as if nothing happened. So what I strongly suggest is that you back up all your documents, your quotes, your contacts, your emails every single Friday, so that if your computer, worst case scenario, crashes, or you have a power failure, or you have a lightning strike, or a fire, or a theft on a Thursday, worst case scenario, you lose 1 week of data rather than 2 or 3 or 5 years of data. You can buy an external hard drive from Harvey Norman or Officeworks for $100, and it's cheap insurance. So that's the first thing I would suggest you do. Alternatively, if you want to be a bit more 2019, you can back up to the cloud, and there's people that we know that can help you to do that, so that you can operate your business from anywhere. You can operate your business from the premises, from the job site, from home, from holidays while you're fishing, playing golf. You can operate your business from anywhere if you have cloud backup. So people say, well, David, what is the cloud? And it sure as hell doesn't cause rain. That's not what I'm talking about. The cloud simply means using someone else's computers in a data center to store your information instead of your own. So there's a graphic there. You can see all these computers linked to those dark blue computer servers in a data center somewhere, And those data centers are in buildings that are fireproof. They've got backup power. They've got backups of backups of backups. They've got the best security so that when your data is stored on there, it is 100% safe. So that's another way of doing it. So the cloud is good if you want to get a bit more technologically enabled. Cost you a little bit more money, but how important is it and how safe is it? So Lars, now that we've talked about what is in the business in the form of internet and backup, what about apps?
Yes, mate. Thank you. My favorite topic, apps. Now, why everyone now talking about mobile apps? So apps are actual applications that are just downloaded and installed on your mobile device now. So that's rather than being rendered within a browser. So that's the definition. The app might also be able to pull content and data from the internet, but it downloads it in a way that you can actually access the information without having an internet connection. So if you to give you an indication of the amount of apps that were downloaded just last year alone, was over 200 billion apps were downloaded last year. So for next year, that's going to go up to 250 plus billion apps being downloaded in 1 year. So
huge.
And
massive.
Look, I hear these numbers, but I truly can't get my head around it. If you look at...
When you consider there's only 7 billion people on the planet, how the heck do we get up to 258? Obviously, people have got 10, 15, 20 apps on their phone.
Yeah. So it's, so as you can see there, in the US, 90% of consumers' mobile time is spent in apps, which is massive. So, why have an app when I already have a website? So the apps are 5 times faster. So it can be designed with a lot of functions like tap and swipe and drag and pinch and hold and a lot more. According to Forbes, people on a mobile phone spend 14% of their time on a website on their phone versus 86% of their time spent on an app on their phone. So just get your head around those numbers. Nearly 9 out of 10 will actually spend time on their mobile phone on an app rather than on a website on the phone. So look, for the last let's say the last 20 years, email has been the most widely used business communication tool, but it's lost a lot of its effectiveness. The open rates and click rates have constantly dropped. And we know that. I mean, how many emails do you get, David, for instance, that would have a headline and you just ignore it and just go, there's another message that I need to put in the bin?
In my inbox, I've probably got 1,000 unopened emails sitting there right now.
I think we all have. Yeah. So, that's now what's happening with emails. Yeah, it's very effective in terms of many applications, but certainly not as the best communication tool. So, now, with an app, you have the ability to send instant, non-intrusive notifications to users, and that's why this is one of the major reasons why businesses want to have a mobile app. It also has the advantages of utilizing features of a mobile device like a camera, contact list, GPS, phone calls, etc. So that's all integrated in. If you need to communicate something and you need to send a photo, an image of some description, then an app is obviously the fastest and most convenient way to go. You can also work offline, and that's probably the most fundamental difference between a website and an app. The other thing that is important is the app can be used to create a distinguished brand for your product or service, so that it can be something that can be used for experimental purposes as well. So you might have an idea and you think, look, I want to explore this a bit further. Let me put it into an app. So you do get mobile apps that offer a greater personalization and operational efficiency. So, and of course have many exclusive features. So just as a summary on that, on the benefits of an app, they are faster. So they are much quicker, up to 5 times quicker. You can have personalized content, instant online, offline access. You can use the mobile phone's features, of course, the push notification and instant updates. So you've got that instant communication with the audience, your branding and design, the productivity improvements and the cost reduction, interactive engagement, as I mentioned before. So it is a great tool for businesses and associations. And also these days, an app is not going to be as expensive as you think. You think, oh, I don't have, $50,000, $100,000 to put an app together. It does not need to be anything like that whatsoever. A native app, an iOS app that is in the App Store for Google and for Apple, it does not need to cost anything like that. So again, it's something that we're more than happy just to discuss with you if that is something that is a consideration. But I think that's about all for now on that topic. And perhaps we can just have a bit of a summary, David.
All right. Well, we're in the home stretch. Oops, one too far. In the home stretch, what are the 3 takeaways from today? Okay, first of all, if you don't have a website, you must get one. It's 2019, got to get with the program, simple as that.
And David, if you do have a website, just check how it looks on a mobile phone.
Yes.
Because 8 out of 10 people now go on a mobile phone to access the internet. So just have a look. How does it look on a mobile phone? And are there things in the website that just needs to be tweaked? Sorry.
Oh, absolutely. I get asked that question a lot, and some people who've got a website that's 3 and 4 years old, they pull it up on their phone and they're shocked to how bad it does look. That's exactly right. So, secondly, you must have at least one current backup of all your business data, including emails, and it can't be more than a week old. If it's more than a week old and you lose it, and there was an example recently where I had one of my other clients, that he had his hard drive failed. Simple as that. His hard drive failed, and he lost all his contracts and quotes. And he contacted me and said, "David, do you have my emails backed up?" And the answer was, yes, we do. So we were able to take all his emails off the server that we had backed up for him. He retrieved his emails, and there was money in those emails. There was people who accepted his quotes, and he was ready to do work, but he didn't have the address. He didn't have the documentation because it was all gone. So that it would have cost him thousands of dollars. He eventually managed to rebuild the computer, managed to scrounge together information from different sources, but he didn't have a proper backup. Guess what he does now? And then the third thing is, you need to streamline your business, or you can streamline your business and your processes and to run more smoothly, more profitably, if you start using the digital tools that are available to you, like the cloud, like apps, like other services, proper emails, etc. So keep those in mind. And look, if you need any assistance with any of the things that we've gone through, or if you've got any questions, and even if it's not necessarily a topic that we've discussed, feel free to contact us. The thing is, we've got a whole team of professionals that we work with in our networks. We've got accountants, bookkeepers, virtual assistants, business coaches, cloud experts. We've got a whole swathe of these professionals that we trust that will look after you. So if you've got any questions at all, more than happy for you to contact us. And also, just to as a further service to Master Plumbers Australia, we're happy to do a over-the-phone IT audit. So we're happy to go through, maybe take 15, 20 minutes, ask you some questions, see if we can identify some areas of your business that you may have some challenges, may have some things that you need to have addressed, and we can offer you some solutions or some suggestions about what can help.
And also, David, we're also happy to do just a quick website audit as well at no cost to the members that are that are part of MPA, and that will just be a symbol to read on information on your website, how it's performing, where it sits out there with Google search and so forth. So happy to do that. Just let us know. Yeah.
Yeah. Also identify anything that it's picked up that's wrong or outdated.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you. Apologies for just missing having the transmission just all of a sudden just go blank on me. But I hope you found it informative, and look forward to some questions if there are any.
And absolutely same from me.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for that. There is actually a few questions that we've got here. So we just had one come through on email from Mandy. This was when we were talking about data security. She just said the ads that come on the TV, like for NordVPN, for example, are they a good idea? Or what do you suggest for data security? Do you have any suggestions?
It's a very broad question. If I can just take this one, Lars. Data security covers so many different aspects. We only touched on a few things today because we just didn't have the time. But Norton Internet Security covers things like antivirus programs for your emails, etc. And it's just more to it than that. Data security covers the the backups, as I mentioned earlier on, whether it be hard drives or cloud. Covers also have a proper passwords and proper access requirements for staff, etc., so that you don't get people booking up clients like I gave you that example earlier on. Plus also it covers having things like power failure insurance with regards to maybe having an UPS uninterruptible power supply. So there's a lot to cover. It's a hard question to put my finger on. My suggestion to Mandy is if she wants to send us an email and a phone number, we can have a bit of a chat and get a bit more specific with what it is that she's actually after, rather than trying to generically answer that question. Is that all right?
Yeah, and also just to add, yes, VPNs are a good starting point. However, there are so many different VPNs out there that you would need to have a good look at the one that is most suitable for your needs, as some of them will slow down your computer significantly, others won't. And they are very different in terms of the features they offer. Apart from offering the security, encrypted security, they also have a bunch of other features that may or may not assist you.
Yes.
Cool. There was actually a couple of, they weren't really questions, but comments from Daniel, who's from Master Plumbers in Victoria. And this was kind of around the data security stuff as well, but he mentioned things like storing all of your contacts in your phone and, your phone breaking and all of a sudden you've lost all of your contacts.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And then also just around keywords as well. So with the whole Google AdWords, obviously the more desirable the keyword, the higher the cost is going to be in that instance.
Right. Yeah.
So in 2019, we don't have one of these, we can't live. If we lose our phone, for most of us, our whole life is on our phone. And it's got all our contacts, it's got our friends, it's got emails. It's actually very scary how much we've become reliant on it. I'm sure you're the same vintage, Lars. I can remember when they introduced fax machines, and that was the latest technology, that you could send a document across the other side of the planet and it would be there within a matter of a few minutes, rather than posting it and be there 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now it's seconds.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. We tend to keep our life on our phone these days.
And it's a couple more questions actually. So Zach has asked, so this is when we were talking about the apps. So
Yes.
Do you think people would be more likely to search for a website when looking for a plumber rather than downloading an app to find them?
Yeah, so if I look for a plumber now, the first place I would go to would be Google search. So that would be the first place I would go to. And I think the app is, for a lot of people, for a lot of businesses, it complements that. It's not there to replace, and it's not there to be the only way, but it is there to be a more effective way to get information across. So I would say that for now, still people would go and they would look at Google search. They would type in what they require there, and then they would find what they need through Google search.
Absolutely. An app is an add-on. It's not a replacement. It's a little bit like Facebook, in that some people think Facebook is good enough as a website. It's a funnel to funnel leads to your website, where the website will convert them. People will phone, and then you've got the opportunity to close.
Yeah, it helps. David, I think also it helps to create that stickiness
Yes.
that is there, that you need, that every business should consider in terms of how they retain their customers, how they keep them engaged, and how they keep them focused on their brand. And an app will do that, no doubt about that, will assist in doing that. Whereas you don't have that same type of stickiness when an app goes onto your website, because they haven't downloaded the website directly into their phone. Whereas with an app, it's sitting there, and it's always going to, until they delete the app, it's always going to be there. And provided they have given consent to notifications, then you're going to be able to alert them and give your message to them whenever you want. Really, you can give a push notification through to them about any topic, which you're obviously not able to do on with your website.
Oh, and one final point of that one-on-one communication is so important, because if you're dealing with builders or property managers that you have ongoing relationships with, as opposed to just a member of the general public, that communication, keeping them top of mind so that when they've got a job, they call you, is so important. You can send through to them whatever offers or specials, or even just information that will keep them thinking about you rather than just the next guy.
Cool. And there's a question from Elena. What's the best way to check a backup of your whole computer? So if you just want to check that it's actually working properly.
Sorry, you go, David.
Okay, so if you've done a backup on the cloud or on your hard drive, the easiest way to check to see if the backup is, if I understand the question correctly, the easiest way to make sure that the backup is not corrupted, that it is actually effective, is that you go and 2 or 3 levels down, select a document at random and open up. So if the way that it works, if one document will open, generally speaking, the whole backup is valid. If one document won't open, it's because the whole backup is corrupted. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but it's really, really not good to have a backup on the same computer where you've got your information. It doesn't make sense, because if you've got a power failure, your information on that computer fails and your backup fails at the same time. So the idea is you should have it backed up on a separate hard drive and then store that hard drive somewhere else. So if you have an office with a computer, all the data, you back up onto the hard drive and then take that hard drive home with you. Or if you have a trusted staff member, because you work from home, if you've got an assistant or secretary, give them the backup and let them take it home and then bring it back every Friday, redo the backup, update the backup, and then take it offsite again. Because if there's a fire and you've got the backup and the data and stored in the same place, you have no backup. I hope that answers the question.
Cool.
Of course, cloud means that you don't have to worry about any of that. Just update straight or backup straight to the cloud.
And we just got 2 more, and then we might wrap things up. So
Cool.
Jody just asked, do you need to back up your emails if you're using a cloud-based email program such as Gmail? So you need to have a backup.
No, you don't. No, you don't. That's already backed up.
Cool.
Unless you lose your password.
Yeah, but
and there was one more question from Ben, but Daniel's actually jumped in and answered it as well. So Ben just said, just going back to the app thing, is it relevant for a small plumbing business? It's just gone. How could it be valuable for customers to take it on?
yeah.
And Daniel's just said that, so Master Plumbers are launching an app in Victoria for their members so that they can manage incoming jobs and things like that. So,
yeah.
Cool.
There you go. Go, Daniel.
Yeah, he's been all over it, answering all the questions for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Unpaid as well. I like that.
So I suppose we'll wrap things up now. We've gone a little bit over the hour, but I think we've had a really good chat today about everything digital related. As David and Lars have said, their details are on the screen now if you do want to get in touch with them. Thank you for coming to the webinar and for joining us for this Master Plumbers Australia and New Zealand, the first thing we've done as a collective. If you want to find out more about what we're doing with MPANZ, you can find out on the Facebook pages, so on pretty much any of the Master Plumber Facebook or Instagram pages, but there is also an MPANZ one, which is just at Master Plumbers ANZ. But yeah, thank you, David and Lars, for presenting today, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure.
Have a lovely day. Cheers.
Bye.
Have a great day. Bye.